It was one of those days when the sky looked as gray as people's hearts in the rush-hour streets of Manhattan. It's a kind of day when everyone walked past each other without so much as a glance, eyes fixed on screens, minds locked into meetings. And deadlines, but not hearts. Hearts were nowhere to be found. In the middle of that cold stream of tailored suits and shiny shoes, little footsteps hurried barefoot across the sidewalk. Not in search of toys or candy, but for warmth, for love. For someone who might just pause for a moment. Amelia Ray, the celebrated CEO of Raytech, was walking briskly from her office toward the black SUV waiting outside. Her usual armor was intact jet black heels, charcoal pantsuit, hair pulled tight, and an expression that made even senior executives nervous. No nonsense, no softness. That was her brand. She ruled boardrooms with silence and controlled entire markets with a nod. But just as her hand reached for the door handle, a small voice broke through the clamor of honking cars and hurrying. Pedestrians. I don't have mama. Can I spend a day with you, ma'am? It was like time froze. The voice didn't belong on these streets. Not at this hour. Not amidst skyscrapers and cold steel. Amelia turned around sharply, expecting perhaps a pickpocket or a street prank. But there, standing barely at her waist, was a little girl older than 7, with tangled hair, oversized clothes, and the kind of eyes that shouldn't exist in a child, eyes that had seen too much too soon. Amelia blinked. She hadn't prepared for this. "Where's your mother?" she asked, her voice unintentionally sharp. The girl shook her head, lips trembling. "She went to sleep last winter and didn't wake up." That hit harder than any corporate betrayal Amelia had faced in her 15 years of business. Assistant Marcus stepped forward. "Ma'am, should I call child services?" Amelia opened her mouth to agree, to nod, to walk away and never look back. But something in the girl's voice cracked, clinging to the last thread of hope stopped. Her. "No, not yet," Amelia said. "What's your name?" Hope, the girl replied. Amelia almost scoffed at the irony, but her throat was tight. "Hope, do you have any family?" "Not the kind that wants me," she answered, her gaze flicking downward. That did it. Amelia, the woman who once turned down a $50 million merger because it didn't feel right, found herself doing the unthinkable. She reached out her hand. "Come on then, Hope. Just one day." And just like that, the girl's tiny fingers curled around Amelia's polished ones, clashing worlds in one small gesture. The SUV driver blinked, Marcus gawked, and the city roared on indifferent. But inside that car, something shifted. Amelia canceled her meetings, much to the horror of her team. "It's a personal day," she said, "and no, I'm not dying." They went to a cafe downtown, the kind with little cupcakes and old jazz music. Hope ordered hot cocoa, the kind with marshmallows, while Amelia, unsure how to behave, settled for black coffee. For the first few minutes, silence reigned in, till Hope started talking. Not complaining, not asking, just talking. About her. Mom's lullabies about the corner of the park where she used to draw chalk flowers. About the night it snowed inside the shelter, and how she pretended it was magic. She spoke with wonder about a world that had been cruel to her. And as Amelia listened, something inside her, something buried under years of ambition and isolation, began to thaw. "Why did you come to me?" Amelia asked quietly. Hope looked at her, tilting her head. "Because you looked sad too." Shh. That answer was a punch to the soul. It wasn't the boardroom battles or her lonely penthouse that came to mind. It was the picture frame on her nightstand. Her own mother, long gone, whom she hadn't spoken of in years. That night, instead of dropping Hope at a shelter, Amelia took her home, just for the night, she told herself, just to make sure she was safe. But one night turned into another, and then another. Slowly, walls came down. Amelia found herself laughing at Hope's drawings, cooking pancakes at 6 a.m., and being called Mom Less and Miss Amelia more. But something wasn't right. A file showed up on her desk, a report from a private investigator she hired to look into Hope's past. What she found was heartbreaking. Hope had been in and out of 6 shelters, survived 2 foster homes, and once walked 6 miles alone to the hospital when she had pneumonia. No one claimed her. No one wanted her. That night, as Hope lay asleep, her tiny hand clutching Amelia's. The CEO stared out the window. The same city lights blinked cold and distant, but for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. Still, a storm was coming. The world didn't like when powerful people broke the rules. News of Amelia harboring a child without legal guardianship leaked. The media pounced. CEO playing mother. Is this a PR stunt or emotional breakdown? Her board members demanded an explanation. You'll lose everything, Marcus warned her. Amelia looked at Hope, then let it be everything. The story wasn't over, but something had begun. A day that was meant to be just one turned into a ripple that would challenge the world around them. A little girl who had nothing gave a woman who had everything a reason to live again. The headlines kept flashing, each more sensational than the last. Corporate queen turned caretaker. What's the truth behind Amelia Ray's mystery child? News anchors speculated. Social media divided itself into hashtags, #HeartlessCEO, and #HeroCEO. Through it all, Amelia kept quiet. She ignored her PR team's frantic calls, refused interviews, and focused on brushing Hope's hair, packing lunches, and taking her to the park on Sundays. Things no one had ever taught her how to do, but that somehow she was learning anyway. But as gentle as the moments were, storm clouds were gathering. One morning while walking Hope to school, a black SUV pulled up beside them. A woman stepped out, stern eyes, a clipboard in hand, her badge visible. CPS, Child Protective Services. Ms. Ray, she said calmly, we need to speak. Hope's little fingers squeezed tighter around Amelia's. I don't want to go, she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. I'll fix this, Amelia told her, crouching to her level. I promise. No one is taking you without a fight. That afternoon, Amelia sat across from a courtroom judge, not as a CEO, but as a guardian desperately seeking legitimacy. You cannot keep a child without proper procedures, the judge stated flatly. Regardless of emotional bond, the law is the law. Her lawyer leaned in. We can appeal for emergency custody if we prove abandonment and danger in previous foster care placements, but it's uphill. Amelia stood. Then I'll climb. All of it. For days, the case unfolded. Reports were reviewed. Testimonies were heard. Former shelter workers spoke kindly of Hope. A school counselor revealed how the little girl had drawn Amelia holding her hand in every art class for weeks. She told me she doesn't want toys or even cake, the counselor said. Tearing up, she just wants someone to come to parent night. But the prosecution wasn't gentle. Ms. Ray, the opposing lawyer, snapped, are you emotionally stable to care for a child? Your life is high-profile, high-risk, high-stress? Amelia, tired but composed, replied, yes, my life has always been high stakes, but none of it has ever mattered the way Hope does. I may not have known how to be a mother, but I'm learning. For her, I'm learning everything. Her voice cracked, raw, and exposed. Hope sat quietly beside her caseworker, clutching a paper drawing. When asked if she had anything to say, the girl stood. Everyone says Miss Amelia is busy and rich and doesn't have time for little girls. She's the first one who made time for me. I didn't ask her for toys or money. I just wanted a day. But she gave me more than that. She gave me a bedtime, story, and pancakes, and warm socks. And when I get scared, she doesn't laugh. She says it's okay to cry. Then she walked over and handed the judge her drawing. It was a stick figure sketch, Hope on one side, Amelia on the other, a giant, Bret Hart between them. At the bottom it said, she's not my real mama. She's my forever one. The courtroom went silent. The judge stared at the picture for a long time, then said softly, case under review. The weeks that followed were long, uncertain. The board of Raytech met in secret, trying to push Amelia out. Investors doubted her. One major publication even called her emotionally compromised. She almost broke until Marcus, her loyal assistant, walked into her office one night with 2 cups of tea and said, before you were a CEO, you were a person. Don't forget that. That night, Hope had a nightmare. She screamed for her mother, something she hadn't done in months. Amelia rushed in, held her, whispered to her, "I'm here. I've got you. I'm not going anywhere." In that quiet room, something irreversible happened. Amelia realized she didn't just want to keep Hope safe. She needed Hope. She needed the little girl's honesty, her fearlessness, her laughter that cracked open Amelia's carefully built world and filled it with something money had never bought: meaning. Finally, the court date arrived. The judge looked stern as ever. After thorough investigation and the emotional testimony provided, began, pausing as if the room itself had stopped breathing, "I hereby grant full legal guardianship of Hope Danielle Monroe to Ms. Amelia Ray, effective immediately." Hope gasped. Amelia blinked, stunned. Then the little girl ran across the room and flung herself into Amelia's arms. "Does this mean I can call you Mama now?" she asked, tears running down her cheeks. Amelia smiled, something real and wide and completely new. "Yes, baby. You can call me Mama." Applause broke out, even from strangers in the back of the room. Marcus cried openly. Even the judge looked like he needed a moment. That night, back at Amelia's penthouse, they celebrated not with champagne or headlines, but with spaghetti, mismatched pajamas, and a homemade sign that read, "Welcome home, Hope." The media turned their tune. Headlines changed. Powerhouse with a heart. CEO adopts orphan girl, public shows overwhelming support. But Amelia didn't care anymore. She wasn't doing it for image. She wasn't doing it for redemption. She was doing it for love. Pure, uncalculated, unbranded. On a quiet evening months later, they sat watching cartoons. Hope had fallen asleep with her head in Amelia's lap. The TV played on, unnoticed. Amelia stared at her daughter, brushing a curl away from her cheek, and whispered, "You saved me more than I saved you." She didn't know that Hope, though half asleep, heard every word and smiled. They were two people who had lost everything: wealth couldn't save one, and innocence couldn't protect the other, but together, they had found everything. And as the seasons changed and life moved on, the story of a lonely CEO and a little girl who just wanted a day became a quiet legend. Reminder that the smallest acts of kindness can rewrite an entire future. It's sometimes all it takes to change a life, is to stop, listen, and say yes.